It's no secret that the NFC West was ideal last season, and you would pick that any season. You would love for that to be the way it is every season. Rams struggled at times to be healthy. Seattle was a wreck on defense, and the Cardinals, yikes. This season, of course, each of those teams expect to improve and have made moves to do such. Despite that, I think the 49ers just got some good news on the NFC West front, and it bodes well for this upcoming season. In this video, we are talking about some good NFC West news that will leave you feeling pumped heading into training camp, which now is just around the corner. If you're new here, I'm Nate. We are talking the San Francisco 49ers. Daily content on this channel, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on all of the action. The good news, in short, is this. CBS Sports talked about what it would take to take on the 49ers in the NFC West, and honestly, none of it worries me at all. If anything, in trying to make it look like the 49ers had some real challengers, it added to my confidence level about this football team. And the other football teams that we have to go against. So I'm looking forward to that. But first, comment below what order you think the NFC West will finish this season. I believe we've done this once. Now knowing what everything has happened in the offseason, what do you think? What are your picks? And we could do this one more time before the start of the season after training camp is done and we've learned everything there is to learn, injuries, all that stuff. Knock on wood, not 49ers. What order do you think it is? I think it's pretty straightforward. For me, it's 49ers, then Rams, and then I suppose you could argue Seahawks versus Cardinals could be one way or the other. I would go Seahawks, then Cardinals, but there's a world in which the Seahawks do not improve enough on defense in order to hold a potentially healthy Kyler Murray back. And despite its talented core of wide receivers, they could struggle to finish and end up finishing last in the division. But overall, I think it's 49ers, Rams, Seahawks, Cardinals, which I suppose is exactly the same as it was this year. So I guess I'm picking them to do the same thing this year. Here's what the article had to say, though. Really interesting stuff. I'll read it to you, or a good portion of it to you, because I think it's pretty interesting. The 49ers won their second division crown in a row in 2023 with a 12-5 record and were able to rest their stars in their regular season finale against the Los Angeles Rams, who went 10-7. The Seahawks were one spot behind them with the 9-8 record in the final season of the Pete Carroll era. I think I meant to say Pete Carroll, but that's okay. And the rebuilding Cardinals brought up the rear with a 4-13 record in their first season under coach Jonathan Gannon. Okay. Los Angeles will likely remain the 49ers' top challenger after bolstering its offensive line. I'll agree with this, by the way. Secondary and defensive front in the offseason. Seattle has the right pieces on offense. Yes, they do. But it will remain to be seen if the new coach, Mike Macdonald, can make a turnaround big enough on that side of the ball to get it done. And while we're talking about that, I'm not trying to say Geno Smith is the most amazing quarterback in the world, but I do think their offense is star-studded in terms of the wide receivers. I think they have a decent offense going forward if they can have Geno get protection, if they can have him be productive. Arizona should be much improved with the full season of a healthy Kyler Murray at quarterback and the addition of generational wide receiver prospect Marvin Harrison Jr., but it doesn't quite have what it needs defensively to slow down the rest of the division yet. So here's how it shakes up. So on the 49ers front, just fodder for 49ers fans, just to make you feel good about Kyle Shanahan's offense reaching another level. With a full season around Christian McCaffrey around in 2023, McCaffrey led the NFL in rushing yards, 1,459 in scrimmage yards, 2023, while co-leading the league in touchdowns, along with Miami Dolphins Pro Bowl running back Raheem Mostert. Running the ball, 14 touchdowns, or receiving the ball, 7 touchdowns. He was a threat to score. His presence opened up the passing game for Purdy, who became the 5th quarterback all-time to throw 30 or more touchdowns and 4,000 yards in 2023. 30 pass TDs and 4,000 pass yards in first season as a full-time starter in NFL history. Brock Purdy, Jordan Love, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, Kurt Warner. Isn't it kind of funny to see this, by the way? We're talking about the Rams. Kurt Warner was a different Ram, of course, in 99. But this is the difference in how the league has changed and become more pass-heavy over the course of time. That you've got 4 of the top 5 are in the last, 7 years or something like that, 6 years. Pretty wild, though. Pretty much every key offensive player for the 49ers led the NFL in some notable metric last season, from Purdy and McCaffrey to Deebo Samuel, Brandon Aiyuk, and George Kittle. And that is an interesting thing to think about. How many offensive leaders we have. I remember something very similar. What year would that have been for the Denver Broncos with Peyton Manning? I think it would have been 2013, so 10 years ago. So incredible in offensive stats. And Peyton Manning was running, and Peyton Manning got all the credit because he's Peyton Manning. But all the offensive individuals on the team were doing super well as well. And so it all shows up in the stats, doesn't it? Defensively, the 49ers were just as good, ranking third in the NFL in scoring defense. Many of the key players who led that figure, of course, Nick Bosa, All-Pro linebacker Fred Warner, Pro Bowl defensive tackle Javon Hargrave, remain in place. San Francisco also added another potent edge rusher in Leonard Floyd, a player who registered a career-high 10.5 sacks with the Buffalo Bills in 2023. I believe that was a career tie, wasn't it? I thought he already had 10.5 one other time, but I could be wrong. San Francisco has what it needs to not only win the NFC West again, but also the NFC as a whole. So if the goal of the article was to make me feel a little bit more concerned about the challengers in the NFC West against the 49ers, so far they've not done a good enough job. Then when you start talking about the Rams, the main thing with the Rams that I want to be clear about, this is just my opinion here, but this is what everyone says about the Rams. Look how good they were when they had everybody healthy. When Kyron Williams, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua are all healthy on the field at the same time, they're incredible. They were 6-2. And it's like, yeah, but they have to, if they're not healthy, then you can't expect them to be healthy again next season. You're just asking for, if it all comes together and all the guys are healthy, then they're going to be amazing. Cool. Okay, so they have the improved offensive line as well. So there's something to note there for sure. I'm not trying to say the Rams aren't going to improve this season, but you do have a big if when you're saying if everybody's healthy. I mean, you could make that argument for the 49ers too. If everybody's healthy, the 49ers are going to win the Super Bowl this year. For sure. When do you have a season where everybody's healthy? It's difficult. It's tough to keep everybody healthy, and that's part of the gig. Now, the argument for the 49ers would be, even if everybody's not healthy, we still have a really good shot at winning the Super Bowl. And I do believe that to be the case. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Here you go. Provided everyone on the offense can stay healthy, the defense should be competent enough for the LA Rams to make the 49ers sweat. Maybe on the field. Sweat on the field. I'm not sure how much we'll be sweating before. Seattle Seahawks. This one's a little bit interesting to me just because I'm struggling to see how the Seattle Seahawks are going to make massive strides this season, but they do have a talented roster. That's the thing you'll give them. They have a talented roster, so we'll see what happens, but the main one would be their defense, and I thought I highlighted some stuff about the defense, but maybe later. I don't know. If Seattle can do a better job protecting the quarterback, that's the other thing. It's 40.2% quarterback pressure rate allowed, was 8th worst in the NFL. Can you believe a 40.2% quarterback pressure rate is 8th? To the worst? Like, oh man, that's wild to me. I imagine it'd be the worst. You say that stat, and I'm like, that's got to be the worst. Absolutely, it has to be the worst. Play a stronger band of defense across the board. The Seahawks could be a threat in the NFC West in 2024. I've told you guys this. I have my picks. I don't know if I have them loaded up right now. I have my picks for the season this year, and I believe those are just the opponents. Look at the schedule here, right? So I still have us at 12-5 currently right now. I think Kurt was asking for this earlier. So I still have us losing to the Seattle Seahawks on that Thursday night football game. I go back and forth about whether or not we lose to the Chiefs, because part of me feels like, how do we lose to the Chiefs again? We have to beat the Chiefs, because that has to be the metric that you're like, we will beat the Chiefs so that we can prove we can beat them in the Super Bowl. We will beat them now to prove we can, and we could have beat them in the Super Bowl. But anyway, that's where I picked that loss. I think that was one of my 50-50 ones. Lions was a 50-51 for me. Packers, I think we'll win that game. See, anyway, I don't see a way that we go, we're not going to go unbeaten this season. We're going to be perfect this season. We're going to lose some games. I don't see us losing the Jets in the home opener. I don't see us, despite their excellent stats on defense and things like that. But all that being said, in terms of division, I do see us losing one of those division games. And if you're going to split with anyone, you might say I'd split with the Rams. So I've got that loss there too. But I could see us losing the Seattle game just because, man, I hate the Seahawks. they're always a tough game. No matter how bad they're playing, they're always a tough game. So we'll see what happens, though. Let me know what you think in the comments. Look forward to joining you there as always. What a time to be alive.